Hey, I want to thank you for joining us on this edition of Polk Place. Going to talk Polk Historical and Genealogical Library, and if that's what we're talking about, talking to Shannon Graham. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing great.
That's good.
Yeah. Are you all ready for this? Chipper and spry?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I woke up this morning and jumped out of bed.
You're
and
like,
thought, oh, thank God,
it's
today.
Day. It's saving day.
I look forward to it all week.
Little wings sprouted out of your back.
Yeah. Didn't even drive today. I just flew over here.
Being facetious, aren't you? So it's been a few months. I was thinking, when's the last time we saw you? November?
No, it probably would have been
November or December?
No, because the speaker series only runs till October.
Oh, yeah, that's
so
right.
Probably September, honestly.
Yeah, it took me a while to find the script on that one, so I was like, when's the last time?
It's been a while.
Yeah.
For sure.
So, most of the time we sit and talk a lot about, kind of the generic stuff. Mm-hmm. As I was passing through the website for you guys, I saw something that kind of piqued my interest, and I'm like, certified local government, and it falls under you. So talk to me a little bit about that, if you would.
Yeah, so we have created a new historic preservation page on our website, which has been really great to help get kind of public awareness out on our historic preservation program. So the team at the History Center has really been working hard, actually the past couple of years, to make Polk County a certified local government. And so what that means is that we've created a historic preservation ordinance, and that's public policy. So we've implemented that, and then based on that ordinance, we can do historic preservation work. And then, as part of the certified local government, we're part of like a communication channel between the local Polk County, the state government, the Division of Historical Resources, and then at the federal level, so your national parks. And what that means practically is that when there's a property in Polk County that is historically significant, we want to save it, we want to preserve it, we're notified at a state level and a federal level. So we're all working in this channel together to kind of ensure that historic preservation work is being carried out throughout the county. So it's been a really fun project to do. Like I said, it's taken a couple of years to get it implemented, and so we're kind of at this stage now with that program that we're going to try and start kind of more solidly defining what the process looks like for historic properties to be locally designated. And so local designation means that, okay, let's say you have a historic property and it's significant in one way or another. Let's say maybe it's associated with somebody significant in the county, or something important happened there, or it has a certain architectural style that's important. So based on those factors, we would say to you, okay, that is a really historic property, and we want to make sure that it's not torn down or altered in any significant way. And so then you would go through a process with the Historical Commission where we would say, okay, here's all your evidence that says that this property is historically significant, and then based on that, we would protect the property under the local ordinance that we implemented. So, and then we would be able to contact the state and then the federal government that says, okay, this is locally designated, we're really interested in protecting it, and so then the property would be protected from demolition and things like that. So it's kind of a multifaceted program, like I said, with those levels, and it can kind of get confusing because there's multiple branches of that tree, right? And so a common misconception is that when people want to get like markers on their property, or they want to put their property on the National Register of Historic Places, and that's the federal level, those are honorary programs, which means that we are acknowledging the significance of a site. We're saying this is really important. You should know X, Y, and Z about the property, but it doesn't actually provide any protection for the property. So someone could come along, buy the property, and then tear it down or alter it significantly because, again, it's an honorary program. So what we're really doing with this local designation is we are putting a protection in place for that property through an ordinance. And like I said, that's through the Historical Commission. So that's kind of how we're putting the work in that way. So it's an interesting project, very complicated. So.
Well, you mentioned Historical Commission. Talk a little bit about that, and how does one get on the Historical Commission?
Yeah, so our historical commissioners, they are nominated on the commission. They serve a term, I believe it's a 2-year term. And so after they serve their term, they can be reinstalled into the commission. And a lot of the times our commissioners, they might not have a specific background in historic preservation, but through their community efforts and their interests, they've shown, we're advocates of historic preservation. And so what we do as staff is, if someone comes to us with that historic property, we'll help them with the application and trying to determine, okay, what is the history of the property? And then us and the sponsor would go towards the Historical Commission and present. And the Historical Commission would say, okay, like we want this property to fall under our local designation process. This is important. And then they would advise the Polk County Board of County Commissioners. And then the Board of County Commissioners would make that public policy. So,
one of the things that I've noticed, Winter Haven, I've seen it in Pewsville, and I can't remember where I was in North Lakeland off of 98, maybe a mile or so to the west. The historical markers, those are very, very cool, kind of make you do some research on how it became important. So talk a little bit about how the historical markers fall underneath this domino of programs.
Yes, so the historical marker program was actually kind of the foundational program of everything. And so that was installed before the certified local government, before the ordinance, all those things. So the historic marker program is an honorary program, so no protection for the property that goes through this application process. But essentially it's just a way to create public awareness of something that's historically significant. And the process for historical markers is very similar to a local designation process. So someone would come to me, an interested party, and would say, okay, Cleveland Heights Golf Course, that's one of our more recent ones, Cleveland Heights Golf Course came to me and said, we're celebrating our 100th anniversary. This is something significant that's, really impacted the community in Lakeland, and we're interested in honoring that through signage. And so I worked, and other staff members worked with Cleveland Heights Golf Course, the team, and we put together an application, and then we went forth to the Historical Commission, and the Historical Commission said, yeah, like this is important, we want to celebrate this. So they approved it, and we were able to put that sign up, and we had an unveiling ceremony, and it was really fun. So that's a great program. The distinction between the local designation and that historic marker program, though, is local protection. So the local designation means protection, the historic marker program is honorary. But that isn't to say one can't be without the other, if that makes sense. So yeah, our historic marker program has been in place. I think the first one is actually from the 50s, but it was much later until we got, the process in place and things like that. So we average probably 3 to 4 a year. And then as the program is growing, obviously we've had more interest in it. So it's been really fun. We've had a lot of interesting ones. Cleveland Heights was actually the first one that I worked on being here, and that was really, really interesting. And I'm not a golfer, but there was so much documented about that property, all the photos and the famous golfers that had been there. So that's just one example. But yeah, the historic marker program is a great one. We have got them all around the county. There's 43 of them, I believe now.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And did you see the peacocks while you were there?
No.
At Cleveland Heights?
No, I didn't.
It's very cool.
No, that is cool.
Drive by and you hear this bird call. It's very unique, the peacock, and kind of go around the corner, and there they are, just.
Well, they didn't bring him out for the unveiling ceremony,
wow,
so.
That's crazy.
I'll have to go back.
That's one of my favorite things to go check out. So Cleveland Heights is the newest one. Are there any on the horizon that we will hear about in the future? So
Cleveland Heights actually is not the newest one. It's like probably 4 back. We had, our newest one actually was our Spessard Holland marker. So historic markers can be in relation to places and people. So for Spessard Holland, what we did, it's actually out by the Bartow Public Library. So if you drive out by the Bartow Public Library, you're going to see a marker honoring kind of everything that Spessard Holland did, and that was our newest one. So we worked with the Daughters of the American Revolution, and they got that one installed. So
that is very cool.
Yeah.
See, you learn something new every day. I'm never getting on the interwebs again and looking at the historical stuff and going, let me ask her about this.
Yeah, you're opening up a can of worms there.
Like, wow, and she's passionate.
I know.
So let's talk about something
funny.
that we're accustomed to, and that's our speaker series. What do we have on the horizon as far as that goes?
Yes, so on April 25th, we've got Sherry Hudson Passy coming, well, virtually, of course, and she's going to be talking about city directories. So speaking of historic properties, city directories are one of those resources that we really use a lot to kind of trace the property ownership, and they give lots of information about, okay, who was at this property, when were they there. Sometimes it'll give, you know, their spouse's name or their job and things like that. So she's going to take a deep dive into those and kind of tell us some tips and tricks to do them. And luckily the History Center, we have a pretty wide range and large collection of those city directories for a lot of the municipalities. So I'm excited.
Yeah.
We use them a lot. Yeah. And so then in May, we're going to have Jim Thornhill come, and he's going to talk about context. And context is, I think, one of those foundational things that you need in genealogy, but research generally, right? You need to contextualize things to get a better picture of what's going on. So he's going to be talking about that, more tips and tricks for that. And then we've got a couple more interesting ones up and coming, but we'll have to wait. I'll have to wait and then tell you about those later.
That's very cool, but something I got to ask you about. See, the word on the street,
there's always a word.
4604 is your extension.
Yes.
But occasionally,
Yep.
you take phone calls. We were talking about, the phone calls that we get just on the PGTV line, and those are always the phone calls.
Yes.
Evidently, you've got a related phone call number.
Yes.
Close to you.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, Juvenile Courts Department is 4640.
Yeah.
And we get a lot of calls from people, you know, looking to talk to juvenile courts. And you can tell almost immediately, you know, that that's the wrong number.
Yeah.
But yeah, so 4640 is juvenile courts.
And 4604
Yes.
is you.
Yes. If you need genealogy, 4604. If you need juvenile courts, 4640. Yep.
Well, it's always a pleasure talking to you. We'll do it again in 2 months.
Yep.
Yeah. And
Perfect.
I'll dig deeply into the interwebs and see what I can come up with. And you go, wow, you really do your homework.
Yeah, go click all the links, like you say.
The Polk County Historical and Genealogical Library is a non-circulatory Polk County library, meaning visitors can utilize the books on the shelves, but they cannot be checked out, and they cannot leave the building located at 100 East Main Street in Bartow. The History Center is open from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Tuesday through Saturday. You need more information about exhibits, events, anything like that, check them out on the web at polkhistorycenter.org or give them a call, 863-534-4604. If you enjoyed that episode of Polk Place, I invite you to like, share, and subscribe to the channel, and even check out the next one.